Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are trying to comprehend the socket programming in next 7 minutes. Socket programming can be done using C, Java and many other languages. In computing, network programming, essentially identical to socket programming or client-server programming, involves writing computer programs that communicate with other programs across a computer network. The program or process initiating the communication is called a client process, and the program waiting for the communication to be initiated is the server process. The client and server processes together form a distributed system. The communication between the client and server process may either be connection-oriented (TCP) or connectionless (UDP).
Why socket programming? To build any network application through internet, we require socket programming. Good example is Internet Explorer and Firefox browsers. In order to understand how data is transferred between applications on the internet, we need to know basics of socket programming.
In order to really understand the concept of the socket programming, let's take an example of a telephone connection in which the sender and the receiver establishes end-to-end connection. Now, how network applications actually work. Any network application, satellite network, mobile network, internet itself, something is required, that is unique endpoints are required for communication. Secondly, addresses are required which distinguishes both end to the rest of the network. Once these things are done, one has to initiate the connection. Another endpoint has to be in ready state in order to receive the connection. Once the connection is established, both endpoints can exchange data. Once data is exchanged, the connection is closed, and hence the conversation ends. So bring this thing into the world of socket programming. The end-to-end communication is established with socket command. After that, a unique telephone number is assigned to bind, and hence the bind command is used. Now caller has to wait, for which the listen command is used. To dial a number, connect command is used. When the connection is established, the call is received, and hence the accept command is used. Now the conversation will be held through send and receive commands. When the talk is finished, close up command is used. Socket basically comprises of a port and an IP. Now let's take a look at the port. The TCP and UDP protocols uses ports to map incoming data to a particular process running on a computer. Firstly, we need to build a socket to a port. In a network, the sockets are always associated with a port. Like Telnet is associated to port 23, FTP is associated to port 21. Port needs to be prepared for listening to connections. Port could be bind between numbers ranging from 1 to 7000.
Sockets provide an interface for programming networks at a transport layer. The network communication using socket is very much similar to performing file I/O. In fact, the socket handle is treated like the file handle, and the stream used in the file I/O operations are used applicable to the socket-based I/O. Socket-based communication is programming language independent. This means that the program written in Java language can also communicate to the program written in Java or non-Java socket programs. The server program runs on a specific computer and has a socket that is bound to a specific port. The server waits and listens to the socket for the client to make the connection request. And if everything goes well, the server accepts the connection, and upon acceptance, the server gets a new socket bound to a different port. It needs a new socket, consequently a different port number, so that it can continue to listen to the original socket for connection request while serving the connected client. Here is the explanation of the client-side code. The program TCP clients create 3 streams and 1 socket. The socket is called client socket. stream object in from user of type bufferedReader. The input stream is initialized with system.in, which attaches the stream to the standard input. Followed by the sentence equal to in from user.readLine. This continues to gather characters until the user ends the line by typing a carriage return. The lines out to server.writeBytes sends the string sentence augmented with a carriage return into the out to the server stream. The augmented sentence flows through the client socket and into the TCP pipe. The client then waits to receive characters from the server. The line modified sentence equals to in from server.readLine arrives from the server. They flows through the stream in from server and gets placed into the string modified sentence. Characters continue to accumulate in the modified sentence until the line ends with a carriage return character. Line system.out.println is basically print the line to the monitor the string modified sentence returned by the server. Followed by the line client socket.close closes the socket and hence closes the TCP connection between the client and the server. It causes TCP in the client to send a TCP message to the TCP server. The server-side code.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are trying to comprehend the socket programming in next 7 minutes. Socket programming can be done using C, Java and many other languages. In computing, network programming, essentially identical to socket programming or client-server programming, involves writing computer programs that communicate with other programs